Arthur, a tyrannical king, once ruled the world with an iron fist. During his rise to power, Arthur slaughtered enemies, nuked cities, and committed countless atrocities, all for the sake of power. However, one day, reflecting on his actions, he was overcome with guilt and died of a heart attack. As he descended into the abyss, a voice offered him a second chance, warning him not to waste it. Moments later, Arthur opened his eyes to find two people looking at him. The man introduced himself as Reynold, Arthur's father, while Alice, his mother, also looked on. They didn't expect their newborn to understand, but they were overjoyed. Arthur slowly realized these were indeed his parents, and he had just been born. He struggled to believe he was a baby again, yet his parents cared for him tenderly. Despite his happiness, he disliked being stuck in a baby's body. His head felt oversized, he couldn't speak, and he involuntarily soiled his diaper every few hours, losing all control. Then, he witnessed something stranger, Reynold channeling energy into his fists, shattering a boulder. Arthur was astonished. Despite his years as a ruler, he knew nothing of this power. Reynold, proud of his feat, turned to his family for praise, but a falling rock struck his head. Alice, having anticipated such an accident, used magic to heal Reynolds, cautioning him to be more careful. While Reynold might show off, his serious punches could easily kill a wild boar during hunts, making him invaluable to his party. Returning from a hunt, Reynold prepared for a welcome hug, but remembering he was covered in boar blood, he went to clean up first. Arthur learned two things. This world was dangerous, necessitating weapons for protection, and he needed to learn to fight to live freely. Back home, Alice suggested a nap for Arthur, which he surprisingly welcomed. In his past life, peaceful sleep was rare due to constant assassination attempts. Months passed, and Arthur's limbs grew strong enough for him to move. His first act was to look in a mirror, finally accepting his baby form. His parents found his fascination with his reflection cute. Later, when Alice put him down for a nap, Arthur put his plan into motion. Once alone, he threw his blanket from the crib, climbed down, and crawled to the library while Alice did dishes unnoticed. In the library, he grabbed a book to learn about this world. He discovered the continent was called Dicathan, divided into the Dark Kingdom, dwarves, the Elamur Kingdom, elves, and the Sappan Kingdom, humans. Although no one had nuked cities there, Arthur sought more knowledge. Another book explained the lack of advanced technology. Magic existed. People manipulated mana within their bodies for two purposes: augmentation, enhancing strength, defense, agility, and conjuring, projecting mana to control phenomena. Arthur found no mention of Alice's healing magic, assuming she was an exception. Most people manifested mana at puberty, learning to control it through a mana core, similar to the key that granted Arthur power in his past life. Focusing his energy, Arthur felt his mana core begin to develop. Before he could continue, Alice found him, worried sick. Relieved he was unharmed, she held him, noticing something different. Arthur feared she sensed his mana, but she had simply noticed he had soiled himself again. 2 years passed. Alice wrote in her journal, grateful for Arthur's healthy growth but concerned by his lack of smiles. Outside, Reynold was giving Arthur sword lessons. Arthur seemed interested, but Alice was furious at Reynold for letting a 2-year-old play with a dangerous stick. Arthur knew not to anger Alice. To avoid further dangerous activities, Alice took Arthur to town. He was excited for first-hand information about this world, observing weapons and unfamiliar substances. He even witnessed fire magic up close, making the trip invaluable. Exhausted, Arthur struggled to stay awake, and Alice wanted him to nap. Despite the limitations of his new life, Arthur enjoyed life with loving parents, a stark contrast to his orphanage childhood. He soon fell asleep on Alice's shoulder. Carrying him to his crib, she told him how proud she was of his curiosity and adventurous spirit, assuming he inherited it from Reynold. She knew he would eventually want to explore the world, and while she preferred a peaceful life for him, she would support his happiness. The next day, Arthur watched Reynold practice magic in the yard, interested in seeing it up close. Rocks floated, a seemingly impressive feat by Reynold's standards, but rather pitiful to Arthur. Reynold's strength lay in augmentation, not conjuring. Inspired, Arthur tried to train, but Alice called him for a nap. Unable to speak, Arthur whined near the bookshelf, but Alice insisted on rest. Arthur then employed a new technique, pouting. His baby cuteness proved effective. Alice relented and let him read. Alone, Arthur practiced with his mana core, having made significant progress over 2 years. Gathering mana fragments, he had formed a core. With more effort, he might cast his first spell. However, underestimating his mana strength, he accidentally blew up the house. Alice and Reynold outside were mostly unharmed, though Reynold's back was badly burned. They rushed inside, fearing for Arthur's life. In the ruined library, they found Arthur unharmed, the source of the explosion. At barely 3, he was already a powerful mage, a feat impossible for his age. He stood proudly, but the collapsing house posed a new threat. 2 roof beams fell towards him. His toddler legs were too slow. Alice and Reynold rushed in to save him. Alice shielded him, while Reynold used magic to block the debris. Arthur was shocked. No one had ever risked their life for him. Alice, relieved, cried, and seeing her tears, Arthur cried too. Such care was foreign to his past life as a ruthless king. He recalled an assassination attempt where the culprit's family faced horrific punishment. Arthur's mercy was a swift execution. Now, his Mondays involved training with Reynold. Reynold wanted Arthur to use gauntlets, but Arthur, with a lifetime of sword experience, refused. So, Reynold also used a sword, reinforcing it with mana. To his shock, Arthur did the same, easily cutting through Reynold's blade. Realizing Arthur was too talented for him to train, Reynold considered a professional teacher and went to discuss it with Alice. Alice vehemently opposed sending Arthur away. They had agreed Reynold would teach fighting, and she would teach magic. However, Reynold pointed out Arthur's feat with the sword, despite being just a toddler. He argued for a proper teacher to nurture his extraordinary talent. Alice conceded Arthur's talent, but hated the thought of him alone in the city. They argued until Arthur suggested they all go to the city, solving everyone's concerns. They agreed and began preparations. The next day, a carriage arrived carrying them and their friends, the twin horns, who had helped rebuild their house. Adam, the leader, introduced himself. Angela introduced herself and her chess, nearly choking Arthur. Darren gently intervened. Arthur then noticed Jasmine on the carriage roof. She remained silent. The others explained she was Jasmine, and the final member was Helen the Archer. With introductions complete, they set off. Alice asked Arthur about his first big trip. He said yes, but internally, he mused on the primitive transportation compared to his past life's flying cars. After traveling most of the day, they camped for lunch. Wolves attacked. The wolves were foolish, charging directly and quickly being defeated by the adventurers. Arthur found the display interesting, his first real combat experience in this world. He resolved to become strong enough to handle such threats. With wolf meat available, they planned a plain grilled dinner due to lack of spices. Alice noticed Reynolds' slightly injured arm and offered to heal it. Jasmine cautioned her to wait. The others gathered around, aware of healers' rarity and vulnerability. Once Alice healed Reynolds, they resumed their activities. Adam, wanting exercise, challenged 4-year-old Arthur to a practice spar. Adam, aware of Arthur's strength, imbued his spear with mana. Arthur did the same, channeling magic into his feet. As they clashed, Arthur vanished, reappearing behind Adam. He lost his footing, allowing Adam to recover. They exchanged blows, but Arthur's toddler body was too light, and he was knocked back. The others caught him, scolding Adam for nearly hurting him. Adam insisted he couldn't hold back Arthur's surprising strength, suspecting Reynolds' secret training. In reality, Arthur's abilities were self-taught. Jasmine approached Arthur, impressed, and asked him to teach her his footwork magic. Arthur, wanting to keep it secret, was met with her persistent gaze. He knew he would likely have to teach her eventually. The next morning, the journey continued. During breaks, Adam gave Arthur basic spear lessons, and Helen taught him archery. Arthur, only experienced with swords, learned quickly. Grateful, he decided to teach Jasmine his speed-enhancing magic. By channeling magic into the feet and using wind magic simultaneously, one could greatly increase speed. Jasmine replicated it perfectly after one demonstration. Later, Arthur read a magic book in the carriage, with Jasmine inexplicably close, constantly finding excuses to be near him. The next morning, Jasmine gave Arthur a knife as thanks, a rare gesture of affection from her. They continued their journey. While Arthur read, bandits suddenly attacked, surrounding the carriage. The bandit leader ordered the capture of the women and children for slavery. The bandits charged. The twin horns and Reynolds were individually stronger but outnumbered. Reynolds was thrown into the carriage, badly injured. Alice wanted to heal him, but Reynolds forbade it, fearing the bandits would target her if they knew her power. Instead, he told Arthur to take Alice and run. She was pregnant. Arthur hesitated, but Reynolds insisted on Alice's safety. At Reynolds' signal, Arthur prepared to flee with Alice while Reynolds held off the bandits. The bandit leader sent men after them, but Reynolds intervened. He clashed with the leader, fighting fiercely to protect his family. While Reynolds occupied the leader, other bandits went after Arthur and Alice. Adam and Jasmine threw daggers, clearing a path for their escape. Arthur, who once took without regard, now fled to protect someone precious. After running for several minutes, Arthur thought they were safe, but a magic-wielding bandit on a cliff attacked with a wind spell. Arthur, too late to react, pushed Alice aside, taking the hit himself. The blast knocked him off the cliff. As he fell, he threw Jasmine's knife at the bandit. The string wrapped around the bandit's ankle, pulling him down with Arthur. The adventurers tried to save Arthur, but he was too far. As he fell, Arthur felt a strange peace, knowing he had protected his family. He understood the desperation of the man he had executed in his past life. He hadn't hesitated to sacrifice himself for Alice. Though he didn't regret it, he wished for more time with them. Somehow, Arthur survived the fall, ending up in a cave. He encountered a terrifying monster and regretted seeking shelter there. He tried to sneak attack it, but the monster easily swatted him away, telling him to calm down and that it just wanted to be friends. Wary, Arthur was badly injured and needed food. The monster offered fruit from the cave wall. Arthur hesitated, but his injuries worsened. He tried to get up, heard a snap, and cried out. The monster told him it was a miracle he survived the fall. It offered to answer questions if Arthur ate the fruit. He was hesitant, but found the berries delicious. Once full, Arthur asked about his parents. The monster, unable to leave the cave, used its long-distance vision to show Arthur that his parents had defeated the bandits. Relieved, Arthur thanked the monster. Since he was stuck there, he decided to befriend it. The monster's name was Sylvia, and she was kind. Over the next few days, Arthur rested and healed while Sylvia watched over him. Once recovered, Arthur wanted to go home, but Sylvia warned the journey was too dangerous alone due to magical beasts and bandits in the elven forest outskirts. Sylvia could open a dimensional rift to send Arthur home or to a safer place, but it would take time. Arthur practiced swordsmanship to pass the time. Days passed. Arthur enjoyed Sylvia's company, but knew little about her, only that she was a terrifying-looking but kind creature hiding from something. After sword practice, Arthur trained his mana. Sylvia was impressed by his early mana core development, something he hadn't been taught. She demonstrated accumulating mana while casting a spell, a technique Arthur realized would make him incredibly strong. Before teaching him, Sylvia asked what he would do with such power. Arthur recalled his family's near demise by bandits and vowed to destroy anyone who threatened them. Sylvia flicked his forehead, disapproving of his answer. She wouldn't teach her technique to someone with such a mindset. She explained that while she could easily kill him, she could also be gentle. She urged him not to let anger and hatred control him, leading to an empty life. She asked again what he would do with the power. This time, Arthur focused on the smiles of his loved ones and replied he would use it to protect them. Sylvia was pleased. Meanwhile, outside the cave, a monster resembling Sylvia was tracking her, closing in. In Arthur's past life as king, he was a tool of the senators, forced into violence he disliked. Back in the present, Sylvia taught Arthur her mana accumulation technique. He practiced, feeling his strength increase. He thanked Sylvia, but she sensed someone approaching, pushed him into rocks, and told him to be quiet. Arthur saw another monster identical to Sylvia. Sylvia seemed to know him and was surprised he found her. The second monster demanded Sylvia come with him, but she refused and he attacked. Arthur wanted to help, but Sylvia telepathically told him not to worry. The monster tried to persuade Sylvia, threatening to kill her. Sylvia refused and revealed her true form, a dragon. In this form, she unleashed immense power, firing a blast at the monster. He blocked it, warning she would die using such power in her weakened state. Sylvia, aware of the risk, didn't care. She had lived a long, happy life. She pushed the monster into a wall, but he retaliated with blasts. Sylvia took damage but was more concerned about Arthur's safety. The monster launched another blast. Unable to dodge without hitting Arthur, Sylvia used her full power to intercept it, temporarily stopping time. While time was stopped, she told Arthur to come out. He did, wanting answers, especially about her being a dragon. But time was short. Her time stop wouldn't last. She quickly opened the dimensional rift she had been preparing, but due to her injuries and haste, it led to the middle of nowhere instead of Arthur's home. She had hoped to avoid the dangerous forest, but now had no choice. Confident in Arthur's survival skills and the technique she taught him, she wasn't worried. She asked again what he would use his power for. Without hesitation, Arthur replied he would only use it to protect his family. Satisfied he wouldn't use it selfishly, Sylvia prepared to give him a few parting gifts. So, Sylvia conjures an egg and a feather before Arthur. She instructs him to wrap the egg with the feather and to cherish it. As a final gift, she imprints her will onto Arthur's arms, leaving a mark that resembles full sleeve tattoos, much to Arthur's confusion. Sylvia, lacking the strength for a detailed explanation, tells him he will eventually understand its use, regretting she won't be there to guide him. She then apologizes, admitting she could have sent him home sooner but selfishly enjoyed his company, a decision that ultimately endangered him. Arthur feels helpless, unable to save Sylvia despite her teachings. He doesn't care that she's a dragon or a monster, she's family. He calls her mother, but Sylvia reminds him he already has one. Arthur then suggests grandma, which Sylvia loves, asking him to repeat it, which he happily does. Though saddened by their impending separation, time is running out. Sylvia nudges him towards the portal. Arthur, understanding, takes her gifts and steps through. At the last moment, he hesitates, urging Sylvia to join him, but she can't. She closes the portal, sending Arthur away. Time resumes, and the other monster's blast hits Sylvia, seemingly fatally. She collapses. The monster, wary, approaches her still form. As he gets close, Sylvia unleashes her remaining energy, incinerating him and everything within a meter. During his teleportation, Arthur hears Sylvia's final message, asking if he remembers her words about the right way to use his power. Arthur remembers, though deeply saddened. Sylvia explains that the world is often sad, but Arthur has the power to change it for the better, one step at a time, drawing on his past life as a king. Though she didn't condone his past rule, she believes that without hatred consuming him, he will become a great king who improves the world. Moments later, Arthur awakens on the forest floor, vowing to fulfill Sylvia's wish. But first, he needs to find his way out of the forest. After being teleported into the elven forest, Arthur begins his journey to return home. But while he is walking, he suddenly hears a blood-curdling scream from across the woods. It sounds like it's coming from a little girl, so he immediately gathers mana in his feet and begins racing to check it out. He jumps up into a tall tree for a good vantage point, and once he is up there, he can clearly see a group of bandits kidnapping a little girl. She tried getting away from them, but the bandits have already grabbed her and are covering her mouth to stop her from screaming anymore. Since the girl is an elf, they plan to sell her as a slave on the black market for a huge profit as soon as they leave the forest. So they tie her up and stuff the girl in the back of their carriage. As Arthur watches the whole thing unfold, he has flashbacks to the moment he and his family were attacked by bandits as well. He recalls hearing the bandits mention something about keeping him and the women in the group alive so they could be sold as slaves later, and it really pisses him off. The first thought that comes to mind is that he should slaughter all the bandits for committing such a heinous crime. But he remembers what Sylvia told him about controlling his rage, so he takes a moment to think and calm down. He realizes that if he attacked right now, it would put the girl's life in danger, so he decides to be patient and wait for the right chance to strike. All the bandits get in their carriage to start riding out of the forest, and Arthur follows them closely from the shadows. By nightfall, the bandits are forced to take a break and set up camp since they can't travel in the dark, and Arthur is contemplating whether he should continue following them until they get to a human town or attack them now. But then he overhears the bandit talking about how his favorite race is elves, so Arthur realizes he can't risk leaving them alone with the girl any longer. However, he still needs to wait for it to get dark before he makes his move. So Arthur sits down and starts meditating to prepare himself for all the murderer charges he's about to catch. Once it is sufficiently dark, Arthur opens his eyes and begins planning his attack. He notices that the bandits have a group of horned wolves on a leash, and he finds it odd that the wolves are obeying a group of humans with no resistance. He takes a closer look at them and realizes that they are wearing magic collars to force them to be obedient, and he can use this to his advantage, so he throws a couple of rocks at the wolves to rile them up. The bandits hear their wolves howling over there, and the leader orders one of his men to hurry up and go shut those damn wolves up. The bandit immediately gets up and kicks one of the wolves in the neck to get it to stop barking, and the second the bandit is distracted, Arthur seizes the opportunity. He summons a mana blade before jumping down behind the bandit, and within a few seconds, the bandit has been slashed to death. Arthur then takes the bandit's weapon, and as another one comes to check what all the commotion is, Arthur jumps on his back and slits his throat. That's 2 bandits down already, but Arthur's body is already getting exhausted, so he needs to end this quickly. Just then, another bandit comes to check why the other 2 are taking so long. So Arthur tries to insta-kill this one as well, but unfortunately, he missed the vital organs, so the guy screams and alerts the other bandits of Arthur's presence. The bandit leader realizes that Arthur is a mage, so he knows this isn't going to be an easy fight, but he also doesn't want to kill Arthur because selling a mage kit on the black market would earn him even more money than the elf girl. The bandit leader begins channeling magic into his arms and swings at Arthur, so Arthur jumps back and tries to counter with a kick, but the bandit leader managed to dodge. Arthur tries to catch him off guard by throwing his knife at him, but the bandit catches it and uses it against him. As a result, Arthur is knocked to the ground, and the bandit lifts him up by the ankles to taunt him. He tells Arthur he is no match for an adult when it comes to strength, and Arthur realizes that the bandit is right, so he decides to attack with his magic instead. He casts a fireball right on top of the bandit's knee, and while he is screaming out in pain, Arthur stabs him in the head with his knife. Now, all that's left is to finish off the bandit that Arthur injured earlier, and once he's dead, Arthur goes to check on the girl in the carriage. The girl was blindfolded the entire time, so she has no idea what's going on. So Arthur tells her he has taken care of all of the bandits, so she is safe now. Her name is Tessia, and as Arthur leads her out of the carriage, he tells her she can go home. But Tessia suddenly notices some blood on Arthur's hand, and she gets really worried about him. Arthur realizes that it's normal for children to be horrified at the sight of blood, so it might not be a good idea to let her see all the dead bodies on the floor. He asks Tessia to wait over here for a minute and goes to cover up all the bandit bodies with a tarp. She asks Arthur what happened to the people that kidnapped her, and Arthur doesn't want to admit that he killed them, so he just says they got into a bit of an accident, so they won't be bothering her anymore. The girl doesn't seem to have any more questions, so Arthur gets her stuff out of the bandit carriage for her and says goodbye because he needs to continue heading home. However, Tessia grabs his arm and begs him to stay because she doesn't want to be left alone. If Arthur leaves her here by herself, she might get eaten by tree ghosts or something. He asks her if she knows how to get home, and she does know the directions, but she has no idea how long it will take to get to her village. Arthur doesn't like the idea of taking maybe tour, but he also knows there's no chance that Tessia will make it home alive if he doesn't help, so he ends up agreeing to escort her back home. Arthur looks over at the wolves that the bandits captured, and he briefly considers using them for transportation, but he has no idea how to maintain control over a wolf, so he wants to just leave them behind. However, Tessia says they should at least remove the magic collars on the wolves so they can return to the forest. Arthur warns her that the wolves might attack once she removes the collars, but she thinks she'll be fine since she hasn't done anything to anger them. And as a resident of this forest, it is her job to take care of the creatures that live here. She eventually takes the collars off the wolves, and sure enough, the wolves peacefully walk back into the forest. The next morning, Arthur and Tessia begin walking in the direction of the elf village, and after a while, they take a break to eat. Arthur cooks up a little stew and tells her she has to eat it because she'll need the energy for the long journey ahead. Tessia thinks the stew smells weird, but Arthur isn't exactly a world-class chef. It's literally made out of nothing but dried meat and salt, so it doesn't taste good, but it's better than nothing. Tessia asks Arthur why he came to the Elshire forest in the first place since it's rare for humans to come here, much less a lone child. So Arthur explains how he got separated from his family and ended up here. While they are on the topic, Arthur asks Tessia what it's like to live in the kingdom of Eleanor, and she absolutely loves it here. All of her parents are often busy with work, so she spends most of her time with her servant and her grandfather. They continue their journey, but since Tessia doesn't know how far away her village is, it's hard to gauge how long this journey will take. And to make matters worse, those wolves that Tessia released have been following them for a while now, so Arthur is really wishing he had just killed them from the start. That night, Arthur decides to stand guard outside the tent to make sure the wolves don't attack him and Tessia while they are sleeping, but after a while, Tessia pokes her head out and asks Arthur to come to bed. Arthur tells her that he's not sleepy, so he's going to stand guard out here, but she's way too scared to be alone, so she pleads with him to come inside the tent with her. Arthur eventually gives in, so he decides to just keep watch from inside the tent for Tessia's sake. She's trying to pretend that she's not scared, but she also demands that Arthur stay by her side at all times. Before she goes to bed, she wants to learn a little about the human kingdom, so she asks Arthur if it's true that all humans are perverts who marry multiple wives. Arthur is surprised to hear Tessia say that and asks where she heard it from, so she explains that her grandfather told her. Arthur can't deny that people like that exist, especially in the Gerard family, but for the most part, humans are modest people. Tessia believes Arthur, so she turns over and falls asleep immediately. The wolves didn't attack, so by morning, Arthur and Tessia got up and continued their journey. Tessia has really been warming up to Arthur over the past few days, and now that she has had a chance to forget about the slave traders, she seems a lot happier. Although she is still pretty hopeless when it comes to survival skills because she can't even cross a creek on her own, so Arthur has to carry her across. All of a sudden, Arthur is hit with a strange throbbing pain in his chest, and he has no idea what's wrong with him. Tessia worriedly runs off to go find some medicinal herbs that might help, but Arthur doesn't think this is a regular illness. While he's propped up against a tree, the wolf from before shows up, and Arthur is starting to panic because he is in no condition to fight it off if it decides to attack right now. Tessia soon returns with the herbs. So Arthur warns her to stay away, because the wolf might be dangerous, but to his surprise, the wolf just drops a dead pig in front of Arthur, and walks away. Arthur is confused by what just happened, but Tessia assumes the wolf was trying to thank him for his help earlier. That night, Arthur and Tessia set up camp, and enjoy some roasted meat by the fireside. This tastes a lot better than the stew, so Tessia really enjoys it, and while she was searching for medicinal herbs earlier, she happened to find some mushrooms, so she offers some to Arthur. But he probably shouldn't have accepted the strange mushrooms, because it gave him a bad case of diarrhea. After Arthur is done emptying his guts, he is really tired, so he is seconds away from passing out, but Tessia keeps talking to him. She is telling Arthur about how her grandpa used to read her storybooks about the human and dwarven kingdoms, so she always wanted to visit those places, but she was never allowed to since elves don't trust people from the other races. Just then, Tessia realizes that Arthur hasn't been listening to a single word she said, but she knows he's just sleepy, so she covers him with a blanket and wishes him a good night. The next morning, the two continue their journey, but the pain in Arthur's chest is getting worse. Tessia apologizes for not being able to help, but Arthur tells her it's not a big deal. Changing topics, Tessia asks Arthur if it's alright for her to call him Artie since she thinks of him as a friend after all. They spent so much time together, and the two of them have gotten really close. Arthur says he doesn't mind being friends with her, and Tessia is surprised that he didn't react much. Arthur then jokingly swears to cherish every moment the great Lady Tessia thinks of him as a friend, but that makes her upset, so she tells Arthur to stop acting so childish. Arthur thinks it's funny that she would say that when she was the one begging him to stay by her side at all times because she was scared, but Tessia says that's an entirely different thing. Jokes aside, now that Arthur thinks about it, Tessia is the first friend he has ever made. Even in his old world, people were so scared of him that he never truly had anyone whom he could call a friend till now. Just then, Tessia spots something that looks familiar, so she tells Arthur to come take a look. Arthur comes over expecting to see a cool-looking stick, or something, but to his surprise, he is standing in front of a huge tree with a portal in the middle of it. Tessia tells Arthur that this is the entrance to Elf Village, so she extends her hand and tells him to come with her. There was a small girl singing and playing with a ball among the water lily flowers. She stopped singing and said there was no continuation. The warrior Mura was walking at night, and there was a villager walking in front of him with a child. Mura imagined the big man was someone he knew, and almost called out to him, but he ended up bumping into Natsu. When Natsu looked at him, she noticed he had two weapons and immediately apologized. Mura said, "No, I'm sorry for not looking ahead." After that, Afu's father told her that this gentleman was Mura, a samurai, and was known to be very nice. Next, we moved to Afu's father's restaurant, where Afu served him food, but he didn't eat. Afu's father asked him why he wasn't eating. Miura replied, "Of course, it's because I have a small problem." He then asked if it was possible for him to listen for a moment. Afu's father said, "Of course." Miura said, "I have an older brother." Afu's father told him, "Stop pretending to be foolish. There is no older brother in the Miura family." Miura replied, "But I do have an older brother." He asked, "Afu, do you know my big brother Sadana?" Ofu replied that she was sorry she didn't know him. Miura said, "Of course, no one knows my older brother, not even my parents." Afu's father told Miura not to think too much about it and urged him to eat since the food was getting cold. Afu asked Miura if she could introduce him to a nice person. Miura said he was okay with it if the person was nice. Afu mentioned that this person might be able to help him. Afu's father said there was a customer who loved to poke his head into strange stories like this. Miura asked, "Is this person a swordsman who fights evil? Does he make money this way?" They laughed at Miura's words. Afu's father said, "No, this man is a mercenary, and clearly he's someone who can help you. Of course, he will take your money, but he's a great duelist and can take out evildoers with one strike from his sword." Afu told Miura that dealing with him might be tough, but he's a good and somewhat nice person. Afu's father added that he eats Afu's soba here every day, and here he comes just as we're talking about him. Jinta entered the restaurant and placed his order, catching Miura's attention as well. Afu's father asked Jinta if he liked the Afu soba this time too. Jinta replied, "No, it was as usual." Afu's father told him he should tell him at least once that it was good. Jinta replied that it was available in all the restaurants, but he liked to taste it here. After that, Afu poured tea for him. Jinta told her she got used to that. Afu said she is improving every day compared to the previous one. She asked him what he thought, and Jinta took a sip and told her that autumn is the season for trees and allows the beautiful scent to flow and the beautiful flowers to bloom. Afu agreed that was true. Jinta said it's interesting to focus on this matter and told her he's attracted to the flowers found in nature, like along the road. Ofu replied that anyway, the season's flowers have finished, and next time, she would tell him a story about the flowers. After that, Miura approached Jinta and apologized for interrupting. He introduced himself to Jinta and asked if it was true that he heard he was obsessed with weird stories and rumors about the evildoers. Jinta replied that he was good at defeating evildoers. Miura asked him if he could explain something to him if he asked. Jinta said it was a bit different, and all he could do was defeat evildoers. If it wasn't evil, that wasn't his specialty. He apologized to him. Miura said he understood, left the money for the food, and went. Afu's father asked Jinta if he could help Miura, telling him he was in big trouble because of his big brother leaving. Afu added that she was also asking this of him because Miura was very troubled because he lost someone important to him, and they begged him. Jinta said, okay, he would return the favor for what they had done for him, which made them feel happy. Jinta told them that the food had improved a lot and that he had put a lot of effort into it. Afu's father replied that it was the result of practice. We shift to Natsu after she went to Jinta and joined him, asking for mochi and some tea. Sitting next to him, she asked Jinta if he liked mochi. He said of course. Afterward, the waitress served food to Natsu, and she said it was delicious when eaten hot. Jinta asked Natsu why things didn't end with Zenji. Natsu felt choked because food had stopped in her mouth and immediately drank tea. She asked him what he was saying. Jinta said that she was now at an appropriate age. Natsu replied that she couldn't be with Zenji. Jinta told her she would feel comfortable and secure with him. Natsu stated that Zenji was like a big brother to her. Additionally, her father mentioned marriage in front of her, but he told her that she could do anything she wanted when she got married. She thought about the store and that it would be better to have a big shelf filled with flowers. She asked Jinta if he didn't think that way, to which he replied that as a mercenary, he didn't have a stable job. She acknowledged it but reminded him that he needed to take things seriously soon. She then asked his age, and Jinta answered he was 31. Surprised, she said he was older than Zenji and wondered if he had any secrets. Jinta said he would leave that up to her. Natsu asked if Jinta was leaving, and he confirmed he had work. When Natsu asked if it was another evildoer, Jinta gestured yes. Natsu asked why he killed such people, suggesting if he had a mission, he could work on other tasks too. Jinta admitted he didn't know why he did it. Natsu asked him to explain further, and Jinta said she had dared to suggest it. Maybe that was the only thing he had left. Natsu felt relieved, commenting that he was usually calm, but now she understood he had a softer side, sometimes fragile but still human. Jinta told her to forget it. Natsu responded, "That's enough. You're not a stranger anymore. We've been together for a while now, and if you keep this up, you'll stay a stranger forever." She had to return to the store, but stopped before leaving, telling him not to worry about wrinkles showing up on his face. Next, we moved to Mira's home. As he was about to leave, his mother called out to him, asking if he was leaving again today. She said she was sure he had no siblings. Mira replied, "I'm sure I have a brother." His mother urged him to search for his brother and stop meddling in family history. Those who understand virtue should forget this and seek help from a stranger. And those who have sworn allegiance should never forget they're a samurai. Mira questioned her, asking, "What's this talk?" He added that, if he found his brother, he would stop doing what he was doing. With that, he left the house. He ran for a while, then stopped, feeling tired. As he rested, he imagined his brother's voice. His brother said, "You have no friends because you have a house, and you have a house because you have friends." He reflected on it, but didn't want to give up his own will. Returning to the present, he asked, "Where are you, brother?" Suddenly, Jinta appeared and said, "You're looking for me." He introduced himself as Jinta, a mercenary, explaining that he had come to help but couldn't promise a solution. Mura said he didn't mind, as believing in him felt like salvation. Jinta asked about what happened before his brother's disappearance. Mura agreed to take him to the castle. Jinta followed, and on the way, Mura remarked that Jinta didn't seem burdened by much, asking if he was from a samurai family. Jinta replied, "No, I grew up in a hut in the mountains in a place called Tatarba." Despite that, he had ended up in this position, benefiting from his role as a warrior. Mura said he understood and then asked if Ko knew where he was from. Jinta confirmed. Mura added, "Because of Tatarba, when I saw your sword's iron scabbard, I thought it was well crafted. I have a hobby of studying swords, and I've heard that Kaiden swords are known for their simple iron scabbards. But your scabbard is finely made." Jinta explained that it was a top-quality sword originally kept in the castle, which is why he was allowed to use it. Mura asked for its name, and Jinta told him it was Yara. Mura noted that people from Kadano also called it Onomusaku, or Honori, and asked if it was just a legend or if it was evil. Jinta said he hadn't heard of it being evil and mentioned that the village lord had told him it had been frozen and couldn't be broken even after 1,000 years. Mura then asked if he could see the sword, but Jinta apologized and said no. Mura said it was a long story and suggested they start now. Mura explained he had been searching for his brother Sadana, but no one seemed to remember him, not even his parents. He was the only one who clearly remembered his brother, and everyone else had forgotten him. Then, their father Afu appeared and said, "I don't think people come here just to chat." Jinta replied that people always came to the store, to which Afu said, "You're very serious." Jinta responded it was just a joke, mentioning they seemed concerned about Mura, which was why he had come. Afu said she was glad to hear him joke. Jinta then asked when Mira's brother disappeared. Mira explained it happened in late April that spring. It wasn't strange, but he had noticed it. His brother had mentioned he was going to see his daughter before he vanished. He told Jinta about a flower in his brother's room that he didn't know the name of. It had a strong fragrance, small white petals with a yellow center, and a white line in the middle. His brother wasn't one to care for flowers, so it caught his curiosity. Jinta asked when Mira found the flower, and Mira said it was after his brother's disappearance. He was the only one who went into his brother's room, so he thought his brother had left it there. Jinta asked if the flower was still there, and Mira said he kept it as proof, hoping it could help him. Jinta expressed his intention to visit the castle the next day. The next day, Jinta visited Afu's father's restaurant. He was greeted by Natsu and ordered his food. Afu's father asked Jinta when he had started this work. Jinta replied it had only been a few days. Afu's father suggested he needed to put in more effort. Afu asked her father what he meant. Natsu then asked Jinta if he was close to Mura. Afu said they weren't that close, but he visited occasionally, and they talked. Jinta replied it wasn't much, and Afu agreed, but added he was nice to her, serious but kind. Natsu asked if he was the man she had bumped into before. Afu confirmed, and Natsu remarked that he was very humble. Afu's father mentioned that when it came to swords, Jinta's eyes changed color. He then handed Jinta something, saying it was a gift from Mura. Jinta said he couldn't take it, but Afu's father insisted, saying it was of no use to him. Jinta eventually accepted and promised to keep it. Afu's father thanked him and addressed him as Mr. Jinta. Afu apologized for her father's insistence, and Jinta asked about the flowers with the white line. Were they water lilies? Afu confirmed, and Jinta noted they seemed small, and that they might not be water lilies after all. Finally, we see a little girl playing with a ball, while her parents watched her with happiness.